Hey everyone, welcome to my show. The idea of the show is to help entrepreneurs getting into the organic food business, especially around Uttarakhand. I interview scientists, professors, and successful business people, uncovering their wisdom, getting their advice, and making it happen. Today, my guest is Vivek Benepal from Missouri. After more than 18 years in marketing events, entertainment, and organizing travel for corporates and private companies, running live shows and managing corporate travel in London, Dubai, Bahrain, Berlin, Singapore, and Phuket, and participating in three of the world's biggest international travel fairs held in Europe and UAE. WTM London, ITB Berlin, and ATB Dubai. Vivek Benepal decided that the mountains were calling and that he had to go. 2006 is when he started his journey and now runs several initiatives. To name a few, Green Life, a first of its kind for Uttarakhand, a curated online marketplace for natural, organic, handmade, and homemade products from the mountain state. Trip the Himalaya, consolidated outdoor experiences that dissolves the barrier between city living and nature loving by making outdoor and nature more accessible. Cafetera is a growing community of nature lovers and outdoor enthusiasts, inspiring people from around the world to reconnect with nature in the great outdoors of Indian Himalayan region. SAR, Search and Rescue, is the search for and provision of aid to people who are in distress or imminent danger. So, welcome to the show, Vivek. I'm glad to have you on our show.
Thank
And
you so much.
so, you moved from Delhi to Missouri. What
Mhm.
inspired you?
Well, I have been working in the mountains since 2006. I have been keeping myself engaged with activities with the state government, largely tourism governments in Kashmir, Himachal. And so since 2006, I have been traveling to the mountains quite often and organizing outdoor music festivals. My objective was to promote alternative sports. So we focused on skiing, snowboarding, rafting, paragliding, those kind of sports, and integrated independent younger artists from the capital, because that's where I lived at that point, and around the country, to come and perform on those festivals and create a unique 2 day, 3 day, overnight experience of being outdoors in the nature, and also exposing themselves to a new kind of music
Okay.
in a unknown environment. So
Mhm.
that's something I've been doing for a while. So I've always wanted to kind of have moved up here. It's just that I took longer because I was doing things in as a plan to get here, instead of getting there. So one day I decided that enough of trying to plan to get there. Maybe I should just get there.
Mhm.
So yeah,
So
that's
you
when I and
decided,
I
okay, this
yeah.
is it, and I'm moving. So what's that tipping point?
There wasn't any really. It was just laziness, and there was always something more important to do, something a bigger project, a newer project that was around. That after this is done, then I can go, or after that is done, one always everybody has a unique idea of what they'll do up in the mountains, and one of the common things people want to do is open a cafe.
Okay.
Whoever comes, so one of the things were like, okay, one day maybe once I set it up, then I'll go there. So it was always like there was never really a tipping point. It's except that at one point of time, I was the events business was not doing that great in Delhi at large, and I was into a whole bunch of artist management where we were trying to push independent Indian musicians, sitar players, etc. It was very difficult and competitive in that time, because there were alternative artists, electronic artists that were doing well. So there was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
frustration professionally on
Mm-hmm.
that note. And so I was like, it doesn't make any sense to spend more time, put in an effort in an industry that does not, at this point, at least in my understanding, have the appetite for it. So might as well go do something else. And I came here with a clean slate. I did not have any idea in my mind on what kind of business would I do, or
Mm-hmm.
what will I get into. But I
Okay.
knew that you could, once you get out there and you spend some time, look around, meet people,
Uh-huh.
you figure out what's going on. And maybe if there's a if if there's an opportunity for you. But
Mhm.
first you have to feel at home, and
Yeah.
that I did very quickly. So it
Okay.
was much easier for me to kind of settle down. I didn't feel out of place
Uh-huh.
ever. And being an army kid,
Mhm.
I've always grown up in army cantonment areas, and so
Okay.
therefore being in an army cantonment area also kind of felt like being at home.
Yeah.
So going back to your childhood and things like that.
Okay. Okay. So how long did you take to set yourself up?
Well, for the first year, I didn't do much except for just acclimatize at large. Have acclimatize my life at large.
Yeah.
I love the pace in the mountains, getting up early, sleeping early. So that is something that I, although enjoyed a lot, but mm, um, well, kind of takes a while to get around,
Mhm.
and in Delhi, we kind of call people each other up at 10 o'clock to figure out where we are going.
Yeah.
Here at
Yeah.
9:30, I'm turning
That's
off my
correct.
lights, and
Yeah.
I've, and I'm hitting the sack. So it kind of takes a while to get used to. For the first year for me was a learning experience. I went hiking quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I looked around places. I met a few people, but a few very interesting people who were great guides and intellectual capacity of this town. So for me, it was a good, very small but a very curated exposure to the town, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed that. So the
Mm-hmm.
first year I didn't do much except for meet people in government or in institutions and just introduce myself and what I do, where I'm from. And then from there, opportunities started coming up. I worked with the forest department initially for a while,
Mm-hmm.
in helping them putting some events together and some creative
Mm-hmm.
campaigns together. And then subsequently, Woodstock hired me to work for their outdoor
Wow.
center, which is Hannaful.
Mm-hmm.
And there I did marketing communications for them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes also help take students out, for treks and trips and things around while I was there. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's what kind of got my interest into the villages and the forests of this area, because I knew about it and I enjoyed being here, but knowing more about it intellectually and being educated about the environment creates a different kind of a connection, which like people do with each other. When you make friends with somebody, you have the person, there's a connect. That kind of thing can only happen once you live long enough.
Yeah.
And this too is a community. I mean, they have names. Each plant has a name with a purpose. Each tree or everything, every animal, every insect has a name. It's a community. So we just need to get to know them, and it's a good community to be around.
Okay. Okay. That's nice. That's nice. So you don't cut wood, you pick up roots and use that as a fire starter. What's behind this?
That's the thing we do with our students when we go out hiking and we're staying in a forest area or in a
Mm-hmm.
village area. So it's
Mm-hmm.
part of conservation and repurposing natural things that are around. And so one of the small things we do in the evening before the kids get into their camps is in the evening they go out looking for wood for the night fire, for the campfire. And the idea is not to obviously cut wood, but to go pick already fallen
Yeah.
wood, small leaves. And then also, if you're in the forest, the resources of lighting fire could be limited. So you may have to use stones if you don't have enough matchboxes. And so the easiest or the simplest thing to burn would be a root. So if you could ideally find a fallen tree and get a part of its root or a small root to light the initial fire, it helps. So it's about repurposing. There's nothing waste in the nature. Whatever is fallen from a tree is consumed by
It's
either
being
an
used.
animal
Yeah.
or by earth.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to kind of in a way be a part of that system, as opposed to force our will on doing things that we want to, which is not a natural part of the process. So by picking up things and repurposing them, to a limited extent, we don't go like picking piles and piles of wood. It's just we try and do a very small fire just to kind of show them firstly how, as a skill set, how to light a fire and how to source wood and all that. But the idea is for them to also find respect for fire, for nature, for jungle, wood, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to master their resources. Not often do we have, like in houses in the cottages out here, we have enough wood so we can survive. But let's say if you're not, if you're stuck, then you'll have to work with a little fire and know how to light it and keep it lit all through the night. So small things like that, like how to sleep warm in a tent, pure identification of plants and animals, flora and fauna. Those are essential things for our children today to know, weather
Okay.
patterns. A lot of kids don't recognize trees. People come here
Yeah.
and wonder that, it's just trees and mountains. What is there to see?
Yeah.
But if you start learning about it, then there's a life's journey, and you'll probably still not whatever you can see in in one site. If you can just understand just that much, would be
Yeah.
a life's worth.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. So you have to be close to the nature to experience all this. Very adventurous.
Absolutely. Yes. Our groups that come for students, we don't do anything less than 4 nights or 5 nights, is because if people say that, oh, our kids just want to have camping experience overnight in the forest, there's no connection. They'll come, they'll enjoy and go back, take some pictures. We take their cell phones away when they come, so there are no pictures. We ensure
Yeah, I
that they
read in
eat
your
local food
website.
there, and
Yeah.
yeah, no Pepsis, no Lays, no none of those things. They eat local. They carry their own, stuff. So it kind of unless you spend that much time disconnected, you will not have a conversation with yourself or even with your fellow people. And that's
Yeah.
what's important today is
Yeah,
for people
that's
to
right.
have a physical conversation, which is not happening. It's always,
Yeah.
like what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
It kind of
that's
is physical, but
yeah,
yeah.
that's good. So a theater in nature. This caught my attention. Could you shed some light on this?
It's one of the programs. There are several such programs that we put together. Some of these programs are designed by other people who are experts, who are
Mm-hmm.
probably trainers and coaches themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they design a program where they have a few of their instructor friends, or people who are experts in a certain field. They'll come together, put like a 3 day or a 5 day or a 7 day program. We do it on different topics. We have a thing called community and conservation, which is about doing cleanup drives and planting trees and all of that. A 5 day program for students is another one called something to do with history, of this place, where we take them around the town and we talk about. So Mussoorie is also one of the most famous personalities, Sir George Everest, who was responsible for the trigonometric survey of India and creating the map that we have. Of course, the name of the peak also was renamed fifth time after him, but I mean, for whatever
Yeah.
reason. But the fact is that there's a lot of history behind that, and not just that, around Mussoorie. So we try and it's called a Golden Heritage or something. It's like a trip.
Mm-hmm.
So a theater in nature is also a course like that. It's not really a course. It's a 5 day workshop
Mm-hmm.
that we do in Kempty at a campus that we have over there, and we put up people who are, this is largely for not students, these are for young executives, probably people who are just getting out of college or in the first couple of years of their
The youth.
um, of their professions. And it touches upon different aspects about of how you can of stress management, of how to kind of critical thinking, and various other, every year we have the modules kind of change a little bit depending on what these experts are like and what they want to build together. The person who puts this together is a guy called Mr. Pavan Gupta, who runs an NGO called the Sustainable Integrated Development of Himalayas, that
Mm-hmm.
work with, they're largely into education. They do translation of Hindi literature for schools, and being able to educate Indian and local village students of our Indian culture and history. So a lot of Gandhi-based education. So they have good a dozen plus schools. So they're the ones who kind of put this program together. We execute it for them,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is the logistics and camping and taking kids out, taking those people out. Apart from their sessions, everything else is planned by us.
Mm-hmm. So basically, it's fun and self-development together in the nature, right?
Yes. In every aspect, we have people from 6-year-olds to 60-year-old alumni from various schools that we take out, and they all are pretty much looking for the same thing. They're all coming in at the same with the same expectation. They want to be connected to the nature, or reconnect with the environment, or at least have a new experience and a peaceful experience. Sometimes it's peaceful, sometimes it's hectic, but overall it works out very well for them.
Okay,
So
that's
far,
nice.
we've been very fortunate with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Good to know that. So, when it comes to building a business in the hills, we see a lot of tourism-related stuff or things that involve construction and basically things that ruin the planet. So, what are some sustainable and practical business models that people can set up that focuses on the triple bottom line, that is profit, people, and planet?
Well, it's about well, one could say thinking out of the box, but really, even if you look just within the box, there are many ideas. I feel that everything that we do today, or we decide to do today, unless we are genius scientists or engineers or whatever, we will be repeating what's been done before in our own
Mm,
imagination, in our own
mm,
understanding of it. And
mm,
if we can just do that much is good enough. The world over, people are developing really good ideas. Smaller countries, bigger countries, forest areas. If you look at South Africa or New Zealand or Australia or any of these places, how are they maintaining them? What are they doing? One thing you mentioned was search and rescue. It's a big service. Every state, every country has it in
yes.
forest places. We don't have that. If the state just focused on that and privatized that, you would have hundreds of people who across the state who are trained wilderness first aid responders who can be employed in villages and I mean, as in still stay in their villages and be employed, gainfully employed. A lot of them can learn about trekking and hiking and about flora and fauna, about birds, and be experts at that. Also helicopters, you need people to do all of technical jobs. There are hundreds of jobs within that industry itself. Tourism, yes, of course, is the most obvious thing. And well, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's a good way to kind of earn revenue. Tourism is huge, it's big, it just needs to be kind of looked at a different way. Right
Mhm.
now, like you said, development in terms of construction and road, well,
Yeah.
to some extent you need that. Unless you have good roads to come up to the town, there's nobody's going to come up.
Mhm.
And you need all of that, but along with that, you don't need unnecessary infrastructure development, which is more to do with private sector benefits. If it was
Okay.
just for general public, then it made sense, but you would build things that will only help a few businessmen or certain area people or politicians or whatever, like that. Those kind of developments are just insane. Big ones, important ones are obviously necessary.
Mhm.
Tourism is something that needs to look at more of, people call ecotourism or things like that. I don't
Mhm.
believe in that as much. I think responsible, we need to encourage more responsible travel in this town,
Mhm.
create more communication around the town on what people can do to
Okay.
contribute towards sustainability and conservation of the environment.
Mhm.
Of course, just putting up signages about keep Missouri clean, or a sign here or a sign there doesn't mean
Don't
anything. You
litter.
have to implement it.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
have
I
to
mean this.
implement.
Although I don't think we have enough communication. Also, firstly,
Yeah.
there was a proposal I had given to put up stickers in cabs who are bringing guests up. So throughout the way when they're coming up, they know Missouri is a no plastic town or a whatever, and things like that. And so that you kind of build that image before people come in town. And then once they come in town, you make sure they don't see any garbage. Otherwise,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
purpose of putting it? So
Mhm.
a lot of such, various such ideas have been over the course of time with the municipal
Mhm.
corporation, cantonment board, ITM, local authorities have been discussed. They have hundreds of really good ideas in their box. They don't need to think outside. If they can just pick any of those hundreds of ideas and start implementing and seeing which one works.
Mhm.
Tourism is very important for this place. I think village tourism is something that the state had looked at a couple of years ago in promoting homestays in villages. That didn't pan out very well because of, I don't know, tons of reasons. Mostly, I think people themselves are not that enterprising, and they did not use that opportunity very well. And you know how government works, so they did what they had to and it didn't pan out. But I think it's a great opportunity. Villages
Mhm.
need to be explored a little more. Remote areas need to be explored more, but not the way these guys want to, which is by building roads in those places.
Okay.
Because a lot of people think if you build, initially people thought that if you build a road to a village, then people will go see the village and there'll be accessibility. But in return, those people who are living in the villages who were trapped have now found roads and now have bought vehicles and run the hell out of there,
Yeah.
and they're all moving on the main roads. Plus, you've destroyed the ecology of the mountain when if it's on a triangle pyramid, if you cut a road here and then cut a road here and then cut a road here, everything in between, the wildlife in between now is stuck between,
Exactly.
yeah, and you've so many things. So I think one, we need to look at exploring villages in a sustainable way, develop the pathways that we have, the trails that we have, create checkpoints in between, experience zones, etc., so people can reach that without even realizing that they're that stressed. Have
Mm-hmm.
decent training in these villages of hospitality, of how guests can be treated, and ensure
Mm-hmm.
each household that signs up
Mm-hmm.
to be a homestay has some money given to them for a maintenance, and a certain standard is set, or tons of, I mean, I can go on, because we've discussed several such ideas on what could we do on villages. But from ideas to create a village into something which is a harvesting village for solar and water. So let's get a 3-year program of people coming, staying, contributing in some part of it, and then going back. All of those things the state already has. There have
Okay.
been people who have been there to put in the money for it, idea
Mm.
for it, technical expertise for it. It's just that they need to also understand it that well to execute, which I don't think they understand. The state people, or very few of them, at least the IS officers and all that, understand really well. But when you get it really on top, uh, they don't understand these things. They don't
Mm-hmm.
believe in these things. They don't know how it's going to benefit. We need to look at, I think the state needs to look at 10 years in ahead of us and say, okay, we need to make our state off grid. Let's go
Yeah.
solar completely.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do. We have already claimed that we are an organic state, so let's make sure that the seeds giving out to the farmers are not pesticide filled,
Yes.
and they are 100%
It's more
organic.
organic.
um, let's harvest all the water that we have, because mountains are facing a big problem on drying up. Next couple of years are going to be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
We're already becoming a place like Shimla with no water. So
Mm-hmm.
let's look at harvesting. We have enough water here in the mountains. Let's just save that. All of those things. So long term planning needs to be done, and there has to be, like Canada has the Green Party, an official party
Yeah.
that is fighting for environment and has a political stake in the government. Like that in India, maybe they should come down to India and have an Indian chapter of the Green Party, and look at that. These guys, for them, any party in India today currently, their environmental agendas are like a caviar on the side. That okay, if those guys come, then we will put these 3 files ahead. That look, we're doing it. But let's look at important things. For you
Yeah.
guys, we've got this. Don't worry. So that perspective needs to change, and that's a very, very big problem over here, I
Mm-hmm.
think. And we need to focus on more than that, because we're in the mountains.
Yeah.
We have the forests, we have the lakes, we have the waters, we have all of that. So we have to be more cautious and careful than the guys in Delhi or Noida or other places, because they are largely relying on our resources. Our rivers flow
Certainly.
down
Yeah.
there. Our wood
Absolutely.
goes down there. Our fruits go down there. Everything goes
Yes.
down there.
Yeah.
So they need to be a little more careful. But instead, they're all coming up here and trying to suck this thing out. Because you come here for a holiday, you spend a decent time in a hotel with nice clean sheets, and you think life is great. But you stay here, then you realize that
Yeah.
life is great, but you've got to.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with its own challenges.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So, if someone is starting out in the organic food business, what is a good product or a line of products that you would advise them to start out with?
I would suggest not to go in organic business at all. I'd say go for a natural business. Go for natural products. Organic certification is something that the government has enforced. People over here have been eating organic food you know from Adams.
Okay.
After over 7,200 feet, there are no pesticides that have reached. So most of the land that you have over here is pesticide free. What they
Okay.
grow is natural. You take
Mm.
it to a laboratory, it perhaps most likely will turn out to be an organic thing. But the certifications, this cert, that cert, all that goes to the government, so you can export and you can do this and you can do that. I would highly encourage to promote natural businesses. Natural business does not mean that you don't get your tests done. Doesn't mean that you don't have your certificate or
Mhm.
your approvals that you require, whatever tests, etc. But it means that you don't necessarily need to pay the government all that money, lakhs and lakhs, to get all those certifications. Find a really good product, find a really good source, and get the product out there. If people start, if they love your soap and it's a really, really good soap, It does not matter if it is certified. They know it's natural. They're feeling it on their skin. So that's what I would suggest: is find a good product that you use, that you relate with, um, and start with that. Something that
Which is
interests you
chemical
personally.
free and
Yeah, which is chemical
yeah.
free.
Mhm.
In all the organic natural products that you could possibly think of, from clothing,
Mhm.
edibles, consumer goods, toys, whatever, like whatever natural products
Mhm.
that you can think of, whichever is your favorite, whatever you
Mhm.
like to use and you have your interest in, start with
Okay.
that. I think that would be interesting because you can innovate in that. You'll have some knowledge of
Mhm.
that.
Okay. And what strategy, what percent selling to shops around Missouri, Dehradun, etc.? What percent on an online marketplace and what percent to the metros?
No, this is probably under 10% of local market, purely because it's a small town. People can walk on foot and get things. They all have runners. So our online orders are, we have retail presence in Missouri. So
Mhm.
for us, locally, it's all through our retail resources, because people know once they get to the shop, they can look at other things. And our retail shops don't just have the products on our website. They have other products also that we don't sell on our website. So they can come down, like toys and things like that. So
Mhm.
people can go and check those out. So locally, if it comes to Dehradun, Missouri, we do deliver, but
Mhm.
it's not as big, because a lot of people come to. I mean, I live in an area, or our shops are largely in boutique areas, so people come to those places anyways, like Char Dukan and Sisters Bazaar. But if it comes to online overall sales, it'll be pan India. Mostly, I would say Maharashtra,
Okay.
Bombay, Andheri, Pune. Those areas get a lot of business. And second would be, of course, Delhi and Noida and Gurgaon, these areas. Then down south, I think
Mhm.
Hyderabad, Bangalore. So I would say, if I had 100 customers, I would say at least 30-40% of them would be from Maharashtra.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Good to know that. So, what kind of assistance does Green Life offer its native sellers?
So the idea of starting Green Life was largely to support local people. We did offline events, which are Landor Mela. We do over here in Missouri, and Missouri Winterline Carnival happens. It's a state government big event. We participate in that. I organize that, a portion or events of that event during the festival. So we do a lot of offline events where I would
Okay.
put up stalls,
Uh-huh.
exhibitions, fairs, and have local people participate for free. We wouldn't charge them any money for the product, but I would put up a stall and put their products out, and obviously take commissions once the product was sold, but not charge them any money for all of this. After the event started picking up and our Landau Mela became from a 1 day event in 5 years, a 3 day event, I realized that we need to do this more consistently. And
Mhm.
also, a lot of people, maybe because of time constraint or whatever, they can't come in. We only have 18 stalls. So every year I can only promote 18 people.
Mm.
And I have 30 emails, from
Mm.
different people. So we said, okay, let's get into an online space which is exclusively for these people who came to us in Landor Mela in the 5 years. So we had about
Okay.
35, 36 people
Mhm.
over the years, and most of them repeated themselves unless they were from different towns. So we've had the same participants from year one till year five, most of them. And it's a small town, so everybody knows they in advance book and all of that. So I realized, what do we do with these other new people who come to us? They're like, man, you're favoring that guy. Was there last year also, he was
Yeah.
last to last year also, and you can't say no. They are actually friends now, so you can't say no to them. So we thought that website would be a good idea. Let's put everything together. All these people, I called each one of them. I said, I'm putting together a website. I'll only focus on local products. Are you interested? They said yes. I took a long time after that to come back to them and said, okay, now I'm ready with the website. So a lot of them were still in the business. A lot of them had moved out of it, but they were new people. So I said, okay, it'll be an aid to my offline events. Whenever I want to look for vendors, I have my vendors on the website. I can call them up and say, hey, these products are doing well for you. Why don't you put them up on our fair over here? But COVID hit, so our offline ideas went for a toss, and we are focusing now fully on our online space in creating more. I wouldn't say we were trying to add more products, but we're trying to add more customers. because I want to make sure these products that we have are firstly fully utilized, as opposed to adding more. And it's been a small company, for us to
Mm-hmm.
keep stock of 500 products,
Yeah.
it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So we are in the process of now with our understanding of the business is fine tuning it and coming up and just getting rid of some products that we don't think anybody wants,
Okay.
even if uh, those can sell in our retail store. But our website, I would like to have it a little more curated, a little
Okay.
more fine tuned, which we will in some time. But apart from that, we give exposure through our website or to the products. It also
Mm-hmm.
has a section called Know the Seller and Become a Seller. So the
Mm-hmm.
Know the Seller takes you to the page where you have all these guys who have put up their, at least the ones who have given us their profiles are up there, and the rest don't have profiles. The idea of this page was to, this was Know the Seller. There's another section called Know the Farmer, where we have profiles of villages. Eventually, once we have enough money, we will create a system where every crop in every season from the villages that we are sourcing,
Mm-hmm.
at least once a month or during the crop time, you'd be able to see the video of what the crop is like happening this season. So
Okay.
if there are 11, 12 villages that we take from,
Uh-huh.
we'll every August, every before harvest, there'll be a
Mm-hmm.
current video of what that villages or that farm is producing, and then what is like season fresh coming a few months later. That's
Mm-hmm.
the idea of knowing the farmer, where you also get to kind of have a little interview. And because I know I
Mm-hmm.
go meet these people, so I could take a little video of them saying, hey man, how's it going, and what are
Mm-hmm.
you doing, and how's the experience this year. So people are also like kind of connected to the ground level, that oh man,
Yeah.
इस साल
Yeah.
लगता है अच्छी फसल नहीं होगी, या
J-
इस साल तो rhododendron बहुत अच्छे हुए हैं, so let's just go for the juice.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. So those are the inroads. Then on the consumer front, I thought an affiliate program for local products is good because it helps reach out to more people, largely for local people to sell their own products. So if a guy is selling his product on my website, what is his incentive of, or his friend's incentive of promoting it when only one guy is getting commission? I said, let's start an affiliate program. So there are many smaller parts of the website that, over my experience of these 5 years of engaging with local vendors, local
Mm-hmm.
farmers, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding what they require, what is not here. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, what can I put together which will solve these problems for people, is
Mm-hmm.
what I try to do with the Green Life website.
Okay, that's nice. That's a good initiative, Vivek.
Thank
You're
you.
giving chance to all the local people. They can put up their stuff on the Amazon. I would say Amazon Green Life.
Yeah, but it's difficult to put it on Amazon now with their new rules and everything. It's crazy if you try and get a product up on Amazon. Plus, they charge crazy commissions.
Yes.
Like I tried to put my products up there and they were charging them 30-40% commissions. Then they said I had a stock in Delhi and other places. So I have to invest in that stock plus pay them for storing my stuff. I'm
Mm.
like, I can't
Mm.
afford this. I'm too small
Mm.
for Amazon. They say they're for, like, they're for everybody and local people and all that. You can, any small business can sell. I'm like, I tried, yeah, I really
Mm.
tried.
Mm.
It didn't work out that very well, because so I wanted to make it simpler. Plus, there's no one in Amazon calling me and talking to me about my business saying, hey man, I understand what your business is, let me see what I can do for you. I do that with my people. I call them up, I talk to them, they call me, they give me their ideas. Green Life also kind of consolidates the events that we do. From the farm, we started a Masuri farmers market, where we used to, on Sundays at different hotels, put up a small farmers market, and then Landor Mela and a few exhibitions here and there. So when I started in a couple of years ago, in I think 2015 or 16, it was called the Green Life Exhibition, so that I can just get people together, and then it kind of developed from there into what it is today.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, so as we go, is there any message for new entrepreneurs starting out in Uttarakhand?
Um, I'd say what I've been telling other people, when they ask me about, or when bigger businessmen, older businessmen, or more successful businessmen tell me कि business ऐसे ही होता है. You've got to learn. There is a certain way things are done. I think if you're starting a new business, then think new. if your grandfather had bribed some munim to do something, you don't need to bribe. If if your father jumped a red light to make sure he was there for a meeting, you don't have to jump that red light. Try it differently. If it's a new business, keep it clean from start. Keep your ethics clean, and your values clean. Make sure
Keep
you
it
don't
transparent.
intentionally go in to screw someone up, when you know there is a possibility of that happening. So yeah, I mean, I'm saying if you're starting a new business, then ethical and responsible businesses is what you should look at. No matter what you do, make sure it's ethical and make sure you're responsible for your actions. Everything that you do, make sure you're responsible for it. Don't blame your success or failure on anyone, and don't expect that also, that because if that guy helps me, then I'm going to do it, or if he doesn't help me, then I can't go anywhere. That was all crap. Just yeah, that's all I can say.
Good. That was a nice message for my viewers. So thanks for taking time out, and look forward to seeing you again on the show. Thank you so much,
My
Vivek.
pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you, and have
Thank
a
you.
great weekend,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.